CNN boss Mark Thompson. He's on a media tour. The network, as you may have heard, launched its new streaming service this week. This is the second attempt by CNN to get into the streaming business. They had their very short-lived, ill-fated CNN Plus that went away for several years. And now a new version of CNN streaming is back. The network, you're mostly going to get what you see on cable. Now you can stream it online for $7 a month, $6.99. So he's conducted a few interviews. I think most notably of which was with Peter Kafka over on his Channels podcast. In the interview, Kafka asked him some pretty great questions, including his thoughts on Bari Weiss, the new editor-in-chief over at CBS, which is, as we just talked about, is enduring a bunch of layoffs. He seemed pretty generous to her. Let's listen to a clip.
What do you make what's happening over at CBS News, where the new owner has said, we're fixing some bias that I want to come out and say, but there's a bias and I'm going to hire Bari Weiss to fix that bias?
I can't work out from the coverage so far with any certainty at all about, in that debate or whatever, who's right or who's wrong. I would rather patiently wait to see how CBS News develops and then make an assessment of it.
Reasonable. Speaking of David Ellison,
I mean that sort of seriously.
Yeah.
In other words, I think it's incredibly easy to jump to.
Well, I guess the thing I would ask is yes, we should see what happens there.
Yeah.
But the point is, the owner has said, well, we have to reestablish trust. He's hired someone who's an active critic of mainstream media, saying, why aren't we trusted? They're diagnosing. They're saying we have a problem.
Also, they've talked about an agenda of fact-based journalism,
Yep.
and I mean they've talked about some of the things I've talked about. I have to say, to be fair, they've talked about as well. So if I, in terms of the statement and the journalistic principles and all the rest of it, much of that seems to me to be unobjectionable.
It's very funny. 5 years ago, we were talking about Bari Weiss too, and she had left the Times.
Yeah.
David Ellison.
I think Barry's, by the way, a really interesting figure. I mean, I'm not,
I agree.
And thoughtful and not to be stereotyped as in a way that she often is in the current discourse about CBS. I mean, I would say that she's an interesting kind of individual.
I agree that she's an interesting individual.
Well, there we are.
Pretty remarkable there, Oliver. Really giving her the benefit of the doubt. Really saying, look, I want to just listen and wait patiently and see what she does there.
Unobjectionable. Sounds like almost like he's a fan. Like she's saying the same stuff I'm saying. So, that's good. It sounded like he's almost a fan of what she's doing over there.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say is my take from this is actually like, oh, I would do some of the same things myself. It seems like we see eye to eye on this. What do you make of that? It's pretty surprising.
Well, I mean, it's also interesting given that there's all this talk about whether David Ellison's Paramount is going to purchase David Zaslav's Warner Brother Discovery, which obviously owns CNN. And so if that were to happen, it's very likely that Bari Weiss would likely oversee the entire news division, which would then include CBS News and CNN. And so he's possibly talking about a potential future colleague of his, maybe even a boss of his in the future. And so I think he's treading very carefully, but it's still, I'd say, a fairly disappointing answer from the head of CNN, who must know what is going on over there. He understands, obviously, the political implications here and like what's really happening. And so to say that he can't cast any judgment quite yet, even on her management style, which included sending that memo, to staffers demanding that they tell her what they do ahead of layoffs, which, no, I can't imagine Mark Thompson would do that. He won't discuss anything about her, really. He just kind of deflects. And I think that's fairly notable and I'd say disappointing.
I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here, right? The most likely scenario that's going to play out in the next few months is that CNN's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, which is led by David Zaslav, that is put a for sale sign up on it. They're supposedly going to split into two, but David Ellison and Paramount are openly saying we want to buy it. And the only thing that's holding Ellison back from purchasing Warner Brothers Discovery is basically the price tag. And they're like this close to getting there. And in that scenario, which Ellison takes over, you now have him in control of CNN. And if CNN is under Ellison's control, then maybe Bari Weiss moves right in as editor-in-chief, and they co-manage the CBS News division with their cable network, CNN. And maybe there's a scenario where she is editor-in-chief of a combined entity, and maybe you need a Mark Thompson, right? To be a sort of Tom Jabrowski who's like the president who understands how a television network operates, right? There's a lot of business, a lot of technical end of it that, she's probably doesn't have to deal with. It's really nice she could just be fully involved in the editorial. It feels obvious to me that Mark is going gentle here because of this real possibility that this is going to be his problem in like 10 minutes. And the sort of straining so hard to try to find the positive. Well, she says that she wants to make it fairer, and hey, that sounds good to me. It's like, okay.
It's like,
is that actually what's been happening here?
It's actually slightly embarrassing to pretend that that's actually what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the reporting doesn't suggest that. I mean, he's a journalist, right? The reporting does not suggest that that is what's happening. And that is not what the Free Press, which she founded and still operates, does. That's not what it is. It's an opinion site, an obvious right-wing, conservative, anti-woke opinion site. Remember that it is Mark Thompson's own CNN that actually has diversity values within them. The very thing that Bari Weiss, hates and has pushed back on having. It's hard to see this as anything other than a clear attempt to maybe start on a positive note with either his future colleague or his future boss.
Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, and you can watch more of us right over here.